Alright, welcome back to We Play Games. Here we are about to begin our war as Dyre the Stranger of Tamilakam to invade Rashtrakutra. And this is going to be a video that's going to be primarily focused on what you're supposed to be doing with your armies during these big scale wars. But if you're curious about how to form these alliances or get your men-at-arms and your knights up, I did just shoot a video about exactly that, and I'll put a link in the description. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to select Invade Kingdom as our Casus Belli. The Casus Belli is your reason for declaring war, and we're going to choose the Rashtrakutra Kingdom itself. If they hang on in a very rump state up here, I think that's flavorful. It'll cost us 1,000 prestige, but at this point, 1,000 prestige is literally 0. We can also call our allies to war. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and call everybody in. We're also going to raise everybody up. This is a war where the targeted goal is this entire kingdom. But this is a special invasion type, and in this case, any territory that we occupy from this enemy outside of this kingdom, we're going to take as well. And so the ticking war score is here. We do want to siege that down. We don't want to abandon it to the enemy forever. But the more territory we can take from them elsewhere, the better. We're also going to be spreading our culture around. We formed a combined Tamil-Norse culture. In the future, we'll reform another culture at some point here in our Deccan campaign. So whenever you're fighting a large war like this, I think that even if you're really excited, don't just send your entire army in all at once. Sometimes that can lead to utter disaster. Instead, be smart about where you take engagements. Try to thin out your opponent's resources, even if you're way ahead. Yeah, so now we even have some allies who are starting to show up, and so we are heavily incentivized to take any sort of fight we can. So in this case, we will be taking a fight where it says we'll probably win. Defending a river crossing is something that's going to show up here. Or it would, except it would appear that we have managed to sneak by because of our strategist ability. So strategist is a perk that we picked up as Dyre earlier, and it says crosses rivers and straits without advantage penalties. And we just completely destroyed their army. They lost 2.3k troops to 300 for us. The reason that we were able to accomplish that, of course, is just that we had much higher troop quality than they did. We had 13 champions in that fight. Oh, we also eradicated a second army. Yeah, that makes sense. Things are about to go very badly for this kingdom. But yeah, anytime you find yourself in a big war like this, don't be afraid to call in allies. Great use of prestige is, of course, to take territory. But don't be afraid to use prestige to call in friends. If you can find battles where you can just really benefit from taking the fight, then go ahead and take it, even if it means abandoning a siege. In this case, we removed almost 3,000 troops, and now we can get to work sieging down even more of their territory outside of the targeted kingdom. Now we are at 100% war score, but we're going to try to siege down as much as we can, because we have actually found ourselves in an incredibly dominant position after having defeated their army down near Tamilakam. We have found our way to just sieging as much of this territory as we can get away with. Yeah, our massive army of allies is simply far too much for this Karnatic kingdom to resist. Alright, there we go. So anytime you launch a large-scale invasion or a big-scale holy war, you're going to end up with a lot of extra domains over your holding. You can potentially hold those territories if you want, but generally speaking, that's going to cause some serious problems for you. First, you should check your outliner. Most of those new territories are going to be providing for you 0 taxes and 0 levies, because they're going to be way above your cap. But if you have enough money and you want to get some prestige thrown your way, then my recommendation is to go ahead and create a couple of titles here. Creating titles is not necessary if you don't have a way to use your prestige, but we do as Maharaja Dyre, so we will create a couple of these, and maybe we will usurp one from our enemy. But now we still have this massive above domain. So the first thing you should know is that any new territory that you've conquered is going to have a very low control amount, depending on how far away they are culturally and religiously from you. Most territory you conquer is going to come with 0 control. So that territory initially is not very useful. You should also be aware that any territory that you've taken, either in a holy war or an invasion or whatever, that is nominally supposed to be under the control of one of your vassals, means those guys are going to expect it. In this case, our Chancellor is incredibly loyal to us, and so we don't necessarily need to give him this land right away, but that leaves a couple of duchies as well as a couple of counties up here to give away. And how you give them away, I think, depends on what your goal is for the territory. In this case, this is going to be Kannada and Telugu. We cannot form a hybrid culture with someone with the same heritage as us, and therefore we need to assume that these cultures are never going to be assimilated into whatever sort of hyphen Norse culture we form. And so this is a perfect opportunity for us to give some of this land away to either some of our second sons or to courtiers and vassals who we think have been particularly useful to us. In fact, I am going to go ahead and arrange a marriage for this son of mine, and then I'm going to grant him one of these de jure duchies. Oh, of course, there's another important thing here, is that here in Mudigonda, there is actually a gold mine. And so this territory here inside of this Raj is especially useful to our family if we can control this as a personal domain that the emperor here always controls. Then we will get enormously wealthy owning that property. So I think we're actually going to give this territory away. And this guy here is our friend, so we're going to grant him a title here after asking him to convert to a Satru. The new territory that you have is going to come in with 0 county control, and so my recommendation, unless you have a desperate need for you to continue organizing your army, is to go ahead and switch over to increasing county control in any territory that you intend to continue owning for yourself. And then if you are using your council as a way to govern your strong vassals, then after any sort of large invasion like this, go ahead and check if you have any new or interesting vassals that you would like to work with. And if not, then go ahead and try to figure out if there's a way to revoke their territories. In this case, we're going to need limited crown authority, but we have tons of prestige, so we can do that. In order to revoke territory from somebody, you need to have a way to do it without tyranny. Although this might be an opportunity for us to just say, to heck with tyranny, 20 opinion is 20 opinion, who is going to oppose us? Yeah, you know what, that's the way. Let's go ahead and revoke these titles. But if you wanted to form a hybrid culture with any of the cultures that you just conquered, then you should make very careful and specific exception to go grant 2 and then a noble of the local variety, because that's going to dramatically increase your cultural acceptance up front, but it's also going to give you cultural acceptance long term because you're going to have a vassal of that culture, which is how we managed to get Tamil Norse on the board so quickly. But our next absorbed culture is going to be Malvi. You'll also frequently find yourself at the end of a big war like this with just a giant slew of prisoners. If you have any sort of economic demands in the game at all, then go ahead and just use mass ransom. And of course, granting out all this territory to your, second, third, fourth sons, whatever, it can be pretty useful because it is going to give you an opportunity to remove them, air quotes, remove them from any sort of Confederate partition succession. But we are going to go over succession in our next episode in a little more detail, because although Dyre is in perfectly good health and may live for another 10 years, he might not. Once you start getting up into your 60s, then you do need to be very cognizant of your succession here in Crusader Kings 3. And so we are going to take our next episode to go over various succession laws and a couple of special succession types that we could introduce into the game. But in the meantime, that is Dyre the Stranger. You're in our intro to CK3 campaign here on We Play Games. Take care.